At issue this week, courting the convention. Could Philadelphia once again become the center of the political universe in 2028? The city is hoping to lure the Democratic National Convention back to the city of brotherly love. I'll speak to the man spearheading the effort.
NBC10 at Issue starts now.
I'm Lauren Mayk. Welcome to NBC10 at Issue. The Democratic National Convention could be coming back to Philadelphia. The city has been selected as one of the frontrunners to host the event in 2028. The other options are Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, and Denver. The DNC will visit each city this spring. Now, Philadelphia already has experience as a host city for major events, including the 2016 Democratic National Convention. Here to discuss this further is the president of Pick, Pennsylvania, former ambassador to Canada, David L. Cohen. Ambassador Cohen, welcome back to NBC10 at Issue. Great to see you.
Lauren, thanks for having me on your air again. It's always a pleasure to be here.
So let's talk about this goal ahead of you, which is getting Philadelphia chosen for the 2028 DNC. You've got Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, Denver that you are competing against.
The so-called ABCDs.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, what do you think gives Philadelphia an edge?
Well, look, this is a bit of a black box process. It always is. There are a lot of inputs that go in. No city really knows in the end what the basis of the decision is, but Philadelphia has some huge advantages. I mean, number one, we've got a great story. I mean, we're the birthplace of America. We're where democracy was born. As a city, we stand for the values that the Democratic Party stands for: equality, justice, equity, etc. We've also got an impeccable and spectacular track record of being able to host national political conventions flawlessly, where the delegates have a great time, where the media is happy, where visitors are satisfied, more than satisfied, they love the city. And we've got a track record of being able to deliver all the technical details that go into a convention: hotels, transportation, entertainment venues, restaurant, Xfinity Mobile Arena and Convention Center, which are world-class venues that are used extensively in any national political convention. And the biggest deal for these conventions is the ability of the host cities to be able to raise the money to honor their commitments. And Philadelphia has consistently not only raised the money that it commits to do, but has over-raised the money. We have over-delivered on our financial goals for all of our mega events in Philadelphia. How
much money do you have to raise for this?
Well, I don't think we have an answer yet to that question.
You don't have an answer?
But it's well,
you don't have a number in your head?
I'm going to give you a number. You know that. But it's a $100 million enterprise, okay, in rough terms. I mean, I'll tell you, I'll get sort of easy. Chicago, which was the last Democratic National Convention, they raised almost $100 million. So I think that's the ballpark that we're talking about. To be able to do that, we did $85 million in 2016 for the last Democratic National Convention that we hosted. So that's the ballpark that we're looking at.
I want to ask you a little bit about what this means for the city, but since we're talking about money, let me ask you about this, because you're competing with other people trying to raise money, including Democratic candidates. You've got 2026 midterms, competitive races in Pennsylvania. You've got, in 2028, there will be a Senate race. There will be a presidential race in Pennsylvania that's very important. If people have money to burn, would you rather they give it to you or give it to a Democratic candidate?
So that's actually, if I just answer the last question you asked, it's the easiest question in the world, because I'd rather they give it. I tell any Philadelphian that it's better to give the money to the host committee for seeking the Democratic National Convention than to any particular candidate, as a civic matter, as a benefit to the city matter. But the really good news about this is I actually don't think we're competing with political candidates. This is not a political activity. But witnessed by the fact this will be my third convention that I'm leading the effort to try and bring to Philadelphia. One was Republican, one was Democratic. Now I'm back on the Democratic side again. because this is about the city. It is about benefiting the city. It is about benefiting the region. It is not about politics. And in fact, the host committee, which is the entity that I'm the president of, we have already received our 501c6 qualification from the Internal Revenue Service, and political organizations are not eligible to be granted status under 501c6. So this is not politics. They're different pots of money.
There's still only a certain amount of money to go around.
There is, but for example, when we go to a Comcast and say we'd like you to support this convention, we're looking for corporate money or even foundation money. That money can't go to political candidates. They're not allowed to give to political candidates. So it's a very different ask from different pots of money, and I don't view it as competitive with the political process and political candidates at all.
Let's talk about what this would mean for the city if Philadelphia is chosen. Last time in 2016, we saw this in South Philly at the stadiums there. Is that where it would be, in South Philly?
The answer is yes. Okay. We've proposed Xfinity Mobile Arena as the convention site, but in 2016, as now, we extensively use the convention center for meetings and events. So it was almost a dually located convention between the convention center and the Xfinity Mobile Arena.
We are expecting some development down there at that site in South Philly. How does this affect that, or that affect this?
So we've obviously given a lot of thought to this. So my partner, if you will, so I should say, this is the mayor's idea. She is the leader of this, which is the best way to go after a convention. And she asked Dan Hilferty, chairman and CEO of Comcast Spectacor, and I to lead this effort and to help put it together. Having Dan Hilferty as my partner in this means we're paying a lot of attention to things like scheduling at the Xfinity Mobile Arena.
For the sports, for and concerts.
For regular, for what's going on. But we also are paying attention to the development plans and construction plans. And we explained in our RFP response that these development plans would exist, but we explained the plan we have for completely walling off, if you will, any construction that would have to occur down in the sports complex. We don't expect it will interfere at all with our hosting of a political convention in 2028 or in 2032, by the way, which is our goal.
Is that the backup plan?
Well, our goal is to get a convention in one of those two cycles. The only RFP out there is for 2028, but the Republicans have a practice of choosing a couple conventions at a time. For example, they've already chosen their 2028 convention venue, and we've heard that the Democrats may be interested in trying to get on that cycle, and if not picking 2028 and 2032 at the same time, having a selection for 2032 shortly thereafter. So our bid is to host the Democratic National Convention in 2028 or 2032.
And, you know, Philly did have the DNC here in 2016. Why do you think they would come back so quickly?
First of all, it's not that quick. I mean, it'll be 12 years, which in politics is an eternity and a lifetime. Second of all, I think they'll make every selection for every year based on the merits of it, and the fact that we just hosted it in 2016 doesn't detract from the merits of and the competitiveness of our bid. And third, and maybe most importantly, is the political dynamics, importance of Pennsylvania, importance of Philadelphia and the Southeast and the outcome of an election in Pennsylvania. These are factors that should lead any party, Republican or Democratic, to be interested in having enhanced and repetitive visibility in this largest media market in the state.
I know that there will be actual site visits to the different cities that are finalists at this point. When are you expecting that to happen in Philadelphia?
So we actually just in the last few days received the dates for our site visit in the DNC Site Selection Committee, which is mostly technical experts, but also some members of the DNC, will be visiting Philadelphia from April 29th to May 1st. So it's pretty soon, it's pretty quick. And we're looking forward to hosting them, to showing off the city.
To hear much more from my interview with former Ambassador David Cohen, check out the latest episode of my Battleground Politics podcast. It's available on NBC10.com, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Still ahead on this edition of NBC10 at Issue, open seat. A large field of candidates vying to replace one longtime local member of Congress who's retiring. I recently moderated a forum where we heard candidates make their pitch to voters. That's straight ahead.
This is NBC 10 at Issue.
We're back now on NBC 10 at Issue with the Decision 2026 update. Candidates vying to replace Congressman Dwight Evans in Congress met recently for a forum in Center City. Now, Evans is not running for re-election, and there's a big field of Democrats competing for his seat. I moderated the forum put on by the Crosstown Coalition that took place at the String Theory School. Here's some of what we heard from the candidates. A new NBC News survey just out found 59% of registered voters saying economic and political systems are stacked against people like them. Do you agree with that statement? And if so, what specifically would you do about it as a member of Congress?
Bad politicians are elected by people who don't vote. What does that mean for Philadelphia and registered voters? This is a one-party town, and we're running in the bluest congressional district in the entire nation, and the first time in 35 years that there's an open seat, which means that there will not be an incumbent on the ballot. If you are a registered Democrat and you don't see meaningful change because your own party is not speaking up, not being bold, not reaching people where they are, there's a reason 60% of folks feel that the system is rigged. But that's our responsibility. That's not on Trump. That's on Democrats. And so if you're not prepared to critique your own party and hold your own leaders to account, then you are complicit. And I have a track record of fighting against establishment Dems because they are complicit in making sure that the folks who are most dispossessed, the folks who are around the edges, the most vulnerable, are not being heard. And unless and until we engage them in good faith, those poll numbers will continue to worsen.
The economy has been stacked against everyday people that you all represent and that are in your communities for decades. And every time we see Republicans take hold of any chamber, you see the wealth gap continuing to widen and widen to the point where the people that we represent just cannot catch up.
When you see the majority of the wealth with the top 1% in this country, we know that we are going in the wrong direction, particularly after the big, beautiful bill that has continued to weaponize wealth against everyday people. So if we're not going to have serious conversations about shifting the tax code and, God forbid, going after those dollars that are overseas that we are not taxing, that they are hiding, that we are not having access to, if we're not going to take serious about taxing capital gains, we're going to continue to be in this position and continue to see our economy work against everyday people like you and I. And not only that, we'll also see, when it comes to our banks that are continuously not lending to communities that look like us, or banks that are overpricing when it comes to lending, when it comes to interest rates, when it comes to building student loans and, going after education opportunities. That is when the economy is stacked against us, and that absolutely has to be a priority for us in Washington, D.C. And when it comes to politics, it makes me think our politics is stacked against us, particularly when you have millionaires and billionaires and corporations and private institutions that are buying up elections. And that is an attempt that is happening here in the 3rd Congressional District that we absolutely have to beat back once we go down to Washington, D.C.
Well, yes, I agree with the statement. But I would also say, listen, people aren't engaged because they feel like politicians talk a lot. And a lot of us are really good at it. We give lofty speeches about we got to make it right and we got to have a sense of community. You know what? I live in North Philly. People want us to do something about it. Michelle Obama said, just do something. So yes, and I've been criticized of a lot of specific ideas, but we need to tax capital gains for billionaires as regular income. They pay less than half of what we pay. They pay 15%. Most regular people pay between 28 and 33%. We need to address the fact that they pass on their wealth. They avoided their whole life with stepped-up basis, and they never pay any taxes on their corporate holdings. We need to get private equity out of housing and out of healthcare. Hahnemann Hospital closed right down the street from here because private equity bought it up, chopped it up, and then gave it away. And sold all the parts and then didn't care about the building, and regular people were hurt. We need to make college affordable. We need to make sure that regular people can go to college. We need to make sure regular people can actually get a decent education and not have to mortgage their entire future. We need to make sure that regular people can buy a house and get a mortgage. And yes, we need to deal with redlining because it keeps regular folks from actually being able to get a mortgage. And guess what? We need to do more than just talk about our values. We did that.
That's time.
We need to actually do something.
I agree with the statement, and that's why I'm running. I am not an establishment candidate. I am not a career politician. I am a public servant. So when I look at this, it's three ways. It's legislation, it's leadership, and local. So legislation is, of course, the tax code. With education, it is supporting Title I funding that is not just for college, but associate degrees and also apprenticeship programs. It's home ownership and also rehabilitating homes so people can stay in them, and really disseminating the PHA information that's out there that is income-based, that you could actually own a home, which lots of people are buying up, but there are too many people in our city that aren't familiar. Leadership, because it takes time to legislate and pass the bill. When I get in office, immediately, this RFK ridiculousness about the vaccine recommendations, flipping the nutrition pyramid, taking fluoride out of our water, trying to confirm a surgeon general that doesn't even have a license to practice medicine will be unacceptable, and I will be as loud as he is, and that doesn't take passing a bill. That's leadership. And finally, locally, I will be able to bring funds back. So that's being in touch with the grassroots organizations that are doing the work so I can make sure you can continue to elevate our communities.
The Crosstown Coalition set rules for candidates to participate in that forum with a minimum fundraising required. And one of the candidates who took part in the forum, Dr. David Oxman, has since dropped out of the race, endorsing Dr. Ayla Stanford. Here are the remaining candidates who have filed to run for that 3rd district seat. All of them are Democrats. Just ahead, protecting young people's mental health. Ahead on this edition of NBC10 at Issue, the step New Jersey's governor is taking to put social media companies on notice and help keep kids safe online.
This is NBC10 at Issue.
Time online is typical for all of us these days, but making sure kids are doing it safely can be a challenge for parents. New Jersey's governor is looking to help. I was there as she visited a school in Marlton this past week.
So as a mom, I can tell you with certainty that our country is failing our children when it comes to their mental health and protecting them online.
Governor Mayk Sherrill at Cherokee High School in Burlington County, and about 2 months into the job, saying her administration will tackle online safety for kids.
Big tech isn't just the big tobacco of our era, it is worse. Not in New Jersey. We're going to do something about it.
Sherrill is proposing investment in the Office of Youth Online Mental Health Safety and a new social media research center, and legislators are readying bills.
The Kids Code Act establishes strong default privacy safety protections for minors online. It requires platforms to automatically apply the highest available safety standards for users that they know are under 18. I want to make that clear. These companies know how old our minors are.
Do you even think about how much you use your phone?
No. Honestly, I personally do not. I feel like at the end of the day, I look at my phone, I look at my screen time, and I'm like, a lot of time on my...
We talked to a group of students who serve as peer leaders at Cherokee High School in New Jersey, where Cheryl's predecessor signed a school cell phone ban set to go into effect next school year.
When adults start talking about new laws, new rules that could affect how you use technology, how do you feel about that?
I feel like it kind of determines on the person. Like, people who really doesn't use their phone as much will probably accept the law, but like for like people who are constantly on their phone, I feel like it would kind of like interrupt what they've been knowing for so long, and I feel like that could kind of change their routine set a bit.
Student assistance counselor Kristen Caputo sees the effects.
They are attached to their phones, and I think even some adults are as well, but their activity online is non-stop.
What's your advice to kids and to families of how to kind of take a breath?
I think I get some of the tips even from the kids, because they will admit they feel better when they have less time on the phone. As much as they're compelled to go use it, they will say, if I'm on it less, yes, I do feel better.
The social media research center the governor wants to establish would be set up inside a college or university in New Jersey, and it would focus on the relationship between digital technology and children's mental health and well-being. We'll be right back.
This is NBC10 at Issue.
It's an election tradition in Philadelphia. An old coffee can determines what order candidates' names appear in on the ballot. Wednesday was the day candidates picked numbers out of that coffee can for the primary. NBC10 was there as the numbers were chosen through this random method. In certain years, a good ballot position can give candidates an edge to get the attention of voters in a big field of candidates. That does it for this edition of NBC10 at Issue. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.